Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Neighborhood News Network, the the home of citizen journalism. George Webb is in frame and in focus. I don't know if I am right now. I hope I am. I'm looking at the camera. I've been told to make better contact with the camera when I'm talking instead of looking at myself talking on the screen. So I'm working on things. But George Webb is alive, still on the road. We got some breaking news today about the CIA and Five Eyes cooperating with the Obama administration to take down Trump. Tony Bobulinski testified yesterday against the House Oversight Committee against Hunter Biden and the big guy. We know George Webb has done a lot of work on that. So George, how you doing this afternoon?
Well, it's still morning here on the West Coast, but let me say this, Sandy. What happens again and again? I kind of had it last night. I had my little outburst last night because all the stuff for 7 years that everybody said I made up is coming. Bam, bang, 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 one after another, and it just gets a little tiresome sometimes because what they do is then they say, oh well, all that's true, but then there's this one thing that hasn't come true yet, that he said 7 years ago, and let's do 12 stories. Let's do a 12-part series on how that little piece at the end. Now, Bobulinski, the Blackberries, the Senate Sergeant of Arms, the server, the January 6th, the whole thing, right? It's all, the fake pipe bomb at the DNC, Donnie O'Sullivan. It's all come true, right? And now there's this little tiny bit at the end that isn't true yet. Like the Ukraine war, got that right. This before the war, right? Got all that shit right. And then these assholes, I hate to say the word assholes, but these assholes come out and then they try to take the one little piece that hasn't come true yet and make a 12-part series out of it. And so finally I said, okay, look, I blew my top last night. I was like, okay, we're going to do continuity government. We're going to do, February 24th. It's going to be Andy Dybala. It's going to be Tom Brady. It's going to be the biggest Super Bowl of all time, deep state versus democracy. I mean, we got Dybala. We got the gun. We got the gun and the shotgun. We're going to win this thing. I'm all excited, and then I get these assholes, the little Epsteins. And I'm like, I'm tired of your bullshit, so I finally just, I said, I'm tired of your bullshit. I don't care, and so I unloaded because I just got tired of the bullshit, It's like, who else has put all their cash into, and then I got you off the damn couch. You were blowing pot every day. I got you off the couch. You were suicidal. You were making $1 million, then you're making nothing, right? I got you off the couch. I put you on to the network. I got you a YouTube channel. I helped you out. I worked day and night, right, for you. And then now you're doing this bullshit back to me. You're stabbing me in the back. I made you asshole. Not that I'm not looking for, oh, George, you did this, you did that. You're a wonderful person. I'm not looking for that, but I don't like the backstab. I do not like the backstab. Andy, you know me. Mm-hmm. We all are putting in everything we can to do the right thing. Look at the Bobulinski thing. Remember when we did all the boards and the signs, Bobulinski, who's the big guy, Joe Biden, and with the Bobulinski with the Blackberries and all that. Remember all that? Mm-hmm. We just want to tell the American people the truth. Right. And now look at it 7 years later. For you and me, this goes back 4 years with Bobulinski. For you and me, just you and me. Right. We've been trying to tell the people of the United States the truth about the Blackberries, the truth about the continuity government server that went into the Senate. Now all this shit is happening and it's getting verified and validated. And I'm just pissed that we have to put up with this bullshit when we're the ones who are bringing the juice. We brought it 4 years ago. 4 years ago. And if you want to go back to predicting the Ukraine war with Bobulinski, with Kolomoisky, we brought it 2017. Mm-hmm. 2017 we brought it and we predicted it. And the lockdowns, the agents, the whole shooting match, right?
All that stuff was what was most confusing to me when I first jumped on the George Webb bandwagon. You were getting all these Ukrainian oligarchs, and I had to like start memorizing some big, long, complicated names and everything. And they're moving money around, and they're in our politics in America. They're buying land over here. It's like this whole ordeal, and it was hard to catch up. But yeah, as soon as you did, you're like George, what? Just hey, Tucker Carlson, say Kolomoisky one time to Vladimir Putin. Just ask, like, who is Igor Kolomoisky? Just ask that question. That's all you have to do.
And now we got Vladimir Putin confirming, validating, and verifying, because he's saying, well, Zelensky's dad is a pretty important character. He didn't say Zelensky's dad's in a partnership with Kolomoisky, you notice. But now we got even Vladimir Putin reporting for us, and he's even confirming a lot of the things we see. Leave out the Alfred the Great stuff. Do you really need to know who Alfred the Great was? Do you really need to know who his son was? Do you really need to know the 600s in Ukraine? Do you really need to know who the grandfather was? You don't need to know any of that bullshit. I say, look, if you want to learn the Ukraine history, start with Catherine the Great. And start with when she went down to Odessa, she saw the nice warm water port. She goes, this is going to be New Russia. Novorossiysk. This is it. Okay, you don't need to know anything before that. You just need to know Catherine the Great forward. You need to know that she promised the Pale to the Kolomoiskys and Chabad Lubavitch all the way from the Black Sea to the Baltic. That's all you need to know. Sorry, you don't need to go through this Tucker Carlson bullshit of a 2-hour history lesson. You don't need to know that. You need to know about Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky is the guy we're giving all the money to, and then he's kicking it back to the DNC. And that, I won't say the F-bomb, but Schiff's the one who's shifty. He's throwing all the money. He's sending it all out, Andy. Then he's bringing it all back in. Then he's shoveling it all out to all of his other people. That's what he's doing, right? And I got to call that mofo out, because that's what's happening here. It's a thing where we throw the billions, and then the billions all bounce back to Schiff from this guy Kolomoisky. Mm-hmm. And here's the other thing, Andy. They had a bookie joint. They had a bookie joint in the freaking Congress. They had a bookie joint in the Congress, right, called a Humpty Dumpty Club, Humpty Dumpty, where you put money in and you go, oh, here's $1 million. And then they would flip the country with Kolomoisky and his Azov Brigade, right? And what happens then? Oh, I get 18 million back. Oh, that was a good deal. That was a nice little investment, right? That's what they're doing. That's what Epstein was doing. That's what Mark Epstein was doing. It was with Jeff Epstein. And we couldn't tell that story because these assholes were out dating these freaking 18-year-olds, spending $300 on Kobe steaks when they should have been looking at the stories we were doing, which is, this is the flip. Eddie, they're making a market. They're making a market in the House of Representatives, and they're under the protection of the Congress, right? With a bang ring. So they could pump and dump as they see fit. They could create the Black Swan events for David Petraeus as they see fit. They knew what was going to happen. Kravis knew what was going to happen. Neil Brown knew what was going to happen. Eric Braverman knew what was going to happen before it happened. It's easy to always bet on the right things when you know what's going to happen, when you know you're going to flip the country. They could hack the election machines if they wanted to. They could take down any country they wanted and then pick up the big chips, right? This is the story we're trying to tell in 2017. They were bringing these young girls from the Ethiopian embassy. They were so skinny because they were freaking starving to death, Andy. They're starving to death. The girl's so skinny because she's starving to death. She comes from a refugee camp. The Strux ran the refugee camps in Tanzania, and the brother-in-law, Struck's father's brother, ran the camp in Tanzania, ran the camp in Kenya, right? They ran the border camp on the Somali border. The girls were so skinny, Andy. They were so skinny. They were emaciated. Then they brought them to New York, the embassy. Jeff Epstein brought the Ethiopians. I was trying to tell this story. They brought the girls to the Ethiopian embassy, Andy. These were skinny girls, right? And they're 18-year-olds. And they farm them out. Of course they want a $300 Kobe steak. They're starving to death. Okay? They're starving. All right. This is what I'm saying, Andy. It was a compromise operation, both at the UN and in DC, right? We had the madams, remember the old madams, the DC madam, and there was the gay guy madam or whatever they call that. That was compromise. Whitney Webb wrote a book about it, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Epstein continued that. It was getting everybody in the Congress, both at the UN in New York and also in DC. He was running that, right? And instead of saying, George, my partner at the time, living in New York, wow, what a great story. You got this whole with the Strucks and bringing the girls in and doing all the compromise. And Peter Strzok has all these Russians, and it's Carter Page, all the shit that came out yesterday, right? 7 years later, Andy, I'm sorry, but 7 years later. And he instead is running around being a little Epstein himself. Can you get the girls any younger? 18? Wow. Like, you shouldn't be. No housekeeping. You shouldn't be, right? You shouldn't be dating 18-year-olds.
The
right?
Fiddler from Tevka, I'm putting that in the screen.
Right. You shouldn't be dating 18-year-olds. You shouldn't be taking our contributors' money and channeling it to $300 Kobe steaks. I got the story down at the Ethiopian embassy. I'm cracking this thing open. I got Epstein at the Stone Forest, and you're out running around being a little Epstein yourself. We have a responsibility. We have to deliver, right, for the American people. We can't be running around being little Epsteins, right? So this is what I was trying to say, okay? And this is the important part of all this, right, is you have to have truth in your heart, and you have to bring it to the American people, right? Now, here we go. Now you're playing Anatevka, and I hate to say this, but the Chabad Lubavitch, Aaron Adler is right. Aaron Adler is right. There is a small group inside of Ukraine that is using the bioweapons from the old Soviet Union to flip countries. They really do believe, Andy, these Chabad Lubavitch people, it's about land, right? It's about land. And you know what? Catherine the Great, here's where Aaron Adler is really, really smart. Catherine the Great, and Putin let this out. Why did he leave it out? Catherine the Great promised the Jews the Pale between the Baltic and the Black Sea. He promised them the land, okay? And you know what? They're like, oh, we didn't forget that. We didn't forget that. We're going to get that land, right? We're going to get it hook or by crook, right? And that's when they got into the bioweapons. That's Kolomoisky. That's why he's into the bioweapons. We'll get rid of all the people in between the Black Sea and the Baltic. We'll get rid of every last one, because she promised us, when she wasn't with the horses, she promised us that pale. Beyond the pale, you ever heard the expression beyond the pale? That was the land. Catherine the Great, that was the land. And Putin left this out. Putin, shame on you for being such a shitty historian. You left this out. You should have said something about the Pale. You left it out, okay? But if you remember, the Pale is that area between the Baltic and the Black Sea, and they said that's beyond the Pale. That means you have to go way out into the hinterlands. We're going to give you land out there. What happened? What happened, Andy? And Putin left this out too. You suck, Putin, as a historian. What happened? All the Jews went to Moscow, didn't they? Where they weren't supposed to go. They were supposed to stay out in the Pale. And what did they do? They took a control of the banking, right? And then they ended up getting the whole thing. But they never forgot that promise. The Russian people came back and won the war and took the land back from them. And they were pissed at that. They've never forgot that. That's why Kolomoisky's in partnership with the Nazis. Everybody says, well, he's Jewish. How could he be in partnership with the Nazis? It doesn't matter, Andy. It doesn't matter. This is 14th Waffen FS, first SS, for Ukrainian SS. They're the ones who did all the camps. They did all the camps. They did all the IG Farben camps. Peter
Biological testing grounds.
Peter Daszak's dad, they were the one who did all the camps. They were the one who did all the death camps, right? That's 14th Waffen SS. That's the people that are running this thing. The Banderas and all that, the war criminals. That's why Kolomoisky's in there. That's why Kolomoisky's in there with them, right? He doesn't care, right? He doesn't care to partner. He's going to partner with Nazis because they'll do anything. They'll run over Russians. They'll line up all the Russian wounded soldiers and run over their heads with a truck, right? Because they hate Russians, right? So he's partnering up, right? And he's going to use them to kill all these people. He's going to kill everybody. He's going to kill everybody in Donetsk. He's going to kill everybody in Lugansk. He's going to kill everybody in along the Dnieper. He thinks he owns everything to the east of the Dnieper River, Andy. He thinks he owns everything to the east of the. He's going to kill everybody. The report came out yesterday with Mariupol, the Russian-speaking city in Donetsk. They're targeting ethnic target the ethnic Russian. Why? Because why are they spending all this money to target ethnic Russians? Why are they spending all this money deep sequencing of the genome and all this target ethnic Russians? They want that land. They want all the Black Sea oil and gas that goes all the way back to Rothschild Energy in the 1840s, right? There's the big Anatov
Terran biolabs.
Yeah, mobile biolab. Andy, this guy is a monomaniacal bastard. He's not just a criminal billionaire who's been sanctioned by the State Department. He's a criminal bastard, right? And Schiff is sending him billions, Andy, billions over and over. Just another 60 billion now, another 60 billion. And it's all coming back to Adam Schiff. And Schiff's dealing it all out to all of his friends. He's a piece of shit, right? And he's going to beat Steve Garvey in the Senate campaign. Poor Steve Garvey. You don't remember Steve Garvey, Andy, but I'll tell you, I hated Steve Garvey for the Dodgers, right? You don't remember Steve Garvey when the LA won the World Championships, but what a swing. And he was Mr. Perfect, had the perfect chin, and he had the perfect stance, the perfect swing, and he would beat the Cubs, and I would get so mad. But then I said, okay, I'm gonna be okay with Steve Garvey, right? Because he's not killing the Cubs anymore, right? The Cubs did go on to win the World Series, Andy. I'll just tell you that right now. Okay,
Against my Indians, unfortunately.
No. Well, hey, what a World Series that was.
That was fantastic.
I got the drive on one side. I got the drive on one side, so I know I'm going to win one way or the other, and I got the Cubs on the other. I mean, anyway. But Garvey, man, he was such a good hitter. I hated him. He's so good, and a fielding third baseman. Oh my goodness gracious, Andy. He had cat-like moves like you do. I mean, he could go left, right, backhand, the whole. Anyway, he's going up against Adam Schiff. This is a man with integrity, right? And he's going to go for the Senate seat. And this freaking Schiff is getting more powerful. Now he's going to go over from the House and go over into the Senate and clean up that whole Senate Sergeant of Arms thing that we discovered. This is the continuity of government. Andy, I'll tell you why they put the server in. It's like, well, they're could you believe it? Like, first of all, how any woman would vote for Adam Schiff. It's just, I could see the little Epsteins voting for Adam Schiff, but that's the only people I can imagine voting. Anyway, doesn't matter. But here you go, Andy. Is Garvey is trying to bring a little bit of decency back to California, right? He's trying to say, look, we can't have everybody in the street. It's not going to be good for business, right? Everybody's laying on the street. They're peeing everywhere, pissing everywhere. It's not good for business. We actually should do this. We should have like places like in, Bakersfield, and we have little huts and stuff, and then have them work on the oil field, or do something, productive where they're not like in front of the most expensive real estate in the world, getting in people's way and then threatening people to stab them and so forth, when they're trying to go save lives. This is a classic case. This is a classic case of how they're going to win hook or by crook in California. They're going to win hook or by crook in California with that one Adam Schiff, and he's going to go into the Senate. Andy, let me tell you, it's the ascension of the vice. It's called the Presidential Succession Act, 75-year-old act, and then they put in a continuity government on top of it. This is the whole thing about February 24th, where we're going to be doing, right? If I don't control the president and if I don't control the vice president, I do a mass formation psychosis. Mass formation psychosis. Now we secret the president off. We secret the vice president off. We take them. The Secret Service now. We're sending the messages to Secret Service. They go bye-bye. They go bye-bye with bye-bye, vice president. Bye-bye, president. Now, where does the control go, Andy? to the server, to the server. It goes to the Senate of Sergeant of Arms, and that becomes the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people don't realize, how important this is. That's what they don't realize is, and those frickers, we've been saying it for 7 years. That server is their go-to if they ever need to do an overthrow. Not a hard overthrow. I just put the president and the vice president on ice for a couple of hours, and then I sign all my things. I sign all my executive orders that I want to get done. And then it's like, oh, nothing happened. And now they bring them back. Oh, here's your fruit juice. Now that you're back, while you were gone, here's all the things that we did. That's what Cheney was doing. Cheney didn't do it the first time in 9/11 because he was the vice president. So he put Bush off on the jet out to Offutt Air Force Base. Bye-bye, bye-bye. And now he comes in and now, but he said, well, what if one day, and Cheney's the one who wrote all the continuity of government, what if one day we don't have the vice president in our pocket? What if one day the CIA doesn't have the vice president in our back pocket any? What do we do then? We have the server. We have the server. We'll put the server into the Senate Sergeant of Arms, and it will take control. The BlackBerry ad hoc server will send out all the messages to the law enforcement and Joint Chiefs of Staff and so forth, and we'll take over the government with a server. And it'll all be pre-planned, and it'll all happen like clockwork. And that's why we pipe bomb our own DNC headquarters. That's why we have Donnie O'Sullivan down there pipe bombing the DNC headquarters. I only need one puke. I only need one puke like Donnie O'Sullivan. I only need one puke like Donnie O'Sullivan to pipe bomb the DNC. And now, mass formation psychosis, I've created continuity of government. Anytime I want, I need just one Donnie O'Sullivan, one puke to go over to the DNC and plant the pipe bomb. And now I take control of the government. Is that the kind of democracy we want? Of course, these guys were going in. Of course, these orange hats. I was waiting for this mofos. Of course they went in to get that server because we've been talking about it being there for 7 years. We've been talking about it being there 7 years, and it went through the orchestration, Andy. When that pipe bomb was reported on 107, okay, for the vice president, notice how she had to be there. Notice how she had to be there. Notice how she had to be there over at the DNC so that she's threatened. So it's threatening presidential succession. Now we can throw the continuity government in. That's why the Capitol Police planted that pipe bomb over there, because they had to say that these two things were connected. The gate 1, gate 2, and gate 3 that I do the live call with Joe Biggs, that had to be connected to the an attempt on the presidential succession in order to throw continuity of government into business, right? That's why the Capitol Police had to say, "Oh, Joe Biggs just went over." Yeah. Here we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean
that. Give us the live call. I was waiting for these bastards. I knew these bastards were coming. I went to the Foresight cops. I went and said they were going to do this. I said that she was going to, Emily Rainey was going to bring those pukes up there. Here we go. Let's just play it.
Okay. We were there right with the group. We were walking right with the group. They came over this first barricade, went over the first fence, went over the second fence, went over the third fence, and even some people made it up into the catacombs in the construction area right here. We've got Georgia Peach, our new anchor in Georgia. She's here,
and she did an affidavit actually in Georgia as well at the state capitol too, which is awesome. But security forces have fallen back to like the third barrier, the last barrier, and we just heard this big yell. And they just all shoved, I guess it's their orange hats. Orange hats on. We were right up over the barrier, and then everybody
and we were right in the mix of all three of us were right in the middle of the group. We saw the group forming right over there, and then they went right over where we're standing. We're going to have video later. We're going to have video later to show you exactly as it happened, but we weren't able to go live at this point. But Georgia Peach, our new anchor in Atlanta, what did you think?
I was stunned. I was a little worried. I was a little scared. I wasn't sure what was going on. Obviously, wanted to be peaceful as President Trump has requested. But I think some folks
do want to listen.
That's
okay. Yeah, you've still got the link that I sent you earlier.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new
rally here. that's pretty much what we've gotten, other than this kind of storming of the guard type of thing.
Yeah, I need something to eat anyway.
Knocked down, but
I think they're just trying to access the lawn area.
yeah, and things have settled down a bit. So you know, it was kind of a flare up before, but again, the security forces kind of fell back, and we saw some guys running up the lawn over on this side, and they ran up right towards the entrance there. So just a little bit of mayhem.
Police and Secret Service running around with them as well.
Yeah.
I've
So
never seen that. I've never witnessed that.
yeah.
So she's even saying that police's Secret Service is running around with everyone. But yeah, there's Hattie Ads and Georgia Peach confirming the orange hats. I'm sure you could ask everyone there, and they'll confirm the orange hats and the storming of the gates.
What this is citizen journalism. You know, it's like it's not just enough to be there. You got to be in the right place at the right time and have the background so that you know what to look for. There's thousands and 2 million people that came in. You have to figure out what in this group, who's going to get the server. This is what I'm looking for. Who's going to go get the server? Who's going to go get this? This is weird. This is a military operation. They're all putting their hats on. They're all smoking the cigarette together. They're all blowing it out in the longest exhale ever. The longest exhale ever. Cloud of smoke that just deluged Washington in a cloud of smoke. All these, I couldn't believe how much smoke came out of these guys. You know, this is like,
you could smell the cigarettes right behind the orange hats as you followed them.
It was like a hookah bar in Marrakesh. I'm like, oh, you know, like, are they trying to, you know, is it a bio attack on the White Capitol? Just, and this, you could see the cigarettes burning down. I mean, you could just see that, right? And then all simultaneously, you know, they all throw,
like
you know,
military operation. All right, boys, buckle up. Like,
yeah. It was like a football team strapping on the helmets before that. You know, it was Andy DeBala. Okay, we're gonna go out there. We got to go. You know, in their fast offense, right? 2-minute offense. This is what they were buckling down, and I'm seeing them right there on the grassy knoll. And oh, here they come. They're mixing in with the Joe Biggs people. This is the group that's going to get that freaking server. They're going to run operations one last time. They're going to send out all their little messages and do all their little things, right? You know, look at the stuff they're doing now, Andy. They're trying to say, okay, well, if Trump is elected, he still has to send money to NATO. He still has to send money to Kolomoisky, right? Kolomoisky still has to get the money, even if Trump becomes president. Who the hell ever heard of that? Where did the founding fathers ever say, well, you know, if Adam Schiff ever is running in the Senate, we should have a thing where he can put in codicils so that he can continue sending hundreds of billions to Kolomoisky, and then Kolomoisky can kick 95% of that back outside of the presidential control. I don't remember George Washington with the powdered wig ever saying, well, you know, there is this one instance. If Adam Schiff ever says that he wants to have this private money laundry back channel, we should be able to keep that for Adam Schiff. No, we shouldn't. Right? We should have the Constitution as it was outlined by the framers of the Constitution, pure, plain, and simple. End of story. Signed it on the dotted line. We're done here. Okay? And that's what we got to get back to, Eddie. So that's my opener for this morning.
And that's George Webb heated this morning, and that's you know, I like it. I like.
There you go. Well, look at
keep it up, trolls. Keep it up. I like it when you got the.
Well, the trolls are the little fucking Epsteins. I'm sorry to use that bomb, but the little Epsteins shouldn't be in here. Go find some 18-year-old out of some Ethiopian camp. You know what? And that little girl, Andy, she was a Somali refugee, right? And then they brought her over and said she was Ethiopian. And that the current guy we got running the WHO, Tedros, he's a freaking war criminal. And he comes from Tigray, the part where they were getting all these girls. And he was just pictured with Kagame, the biggest war criminal in Africa ever. I did a whole bunch of stories with Cynthia McKinney about the biggest war criminal ever. Hitler's a nobody compared to this guy, Kagame. Over in Rwanda, he just was pictured with Tedros, the two big. This Andy, I'm sorry to get on.
How do you spell his name?
Kagame, 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 Kagame.
I remember seeing that picture on your.
He was with Tedros, the biggest war criminal ever. If that isn't proof enough that the WHO is being taken over by NATO, the WHO is being taken over by NATO. I wrote in my latest Substack.
Guy?
Yes,
That looks like Obama's cousin.
he's the biggest war criminal ever, Andy. He's the one who made all these Halimas, and he's the one who created all these refugee camps. Yes, she was skinny. Yes, she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You know why? She was starving to death. She was starving to death. You know what? I don't want to be known as the little Epstein that went out and took the 18-year-old out for a $300 steak, right? I don't want to be that guy. Now, if you want to go out for a reasonable prime rib, I understand she wants to eat, but she doesn't need a $300 steak. And how many girlfriends can you have that are named Halima? He goes, oh, that's not the Halima I dated. I dated another Halima. Well, what is this? Some kind of imaginary girlfriend club you got going on? The imaginary Halima girlfriend club? Who was that guy with the linebacker for the Notre Dame who had the imaginary girlfriend? Who was that guy?
Tua or
Teo.
Teo, yeah.
It's like, what is this? What is this? Oh, yeah. 1 minute you have the girlfriend, and that's the reason why you need to divert all the money from the contributors so that you can take her out for $300 steaks. And the next minute you've got a different girlfriend whose name is Salima. I can't keep the little Epstein straight here. I mean, and how could we go up there? This Epstein wasn't live at the time. How could I go up there and I go, Strzok and all of them are running these Ethiopian girls, starving to death. They're running all these Ethiopian girls four times a year. Mm-hmm. They were having this fashion week. They're running these starving Ethiopian girls in there 4 times a year. Yes, I'm a fashion photographer. Yes, I live in New York. Yes, I can go in there and pick up the chips, as these girls are starving to death. Yes, they'll do anything for a $300 Kobe steak, because it's not that big a plate, really. It's a small plate. But yes, they'll do anything. Is that how I want to make my living? Is that what do I want to be known for? Or do I want to be the mofo that's going up to the Storm Fortress on 92nd Street and saying, this is the game that's going on right now at the UN. They're taking these starving Ethiopian girls, they're running them in there because they'll do anything for a $300 Kobe steak. They'll do anything because they're starving to death, Andy. And they're running them and they're compromising our diplomats. They're compromising these foreign diplomats. They're compromising our senators. They're compromising. Debbie Wasserman Schultz had 3 little cottages right out the back of the Congress where they had little shack-up shacks, I guess would be the easiest way to say it. They were running them on Capitol Hill too. Nancy Pelosi ran a ring on Capitol Hill. Sorry, Nancy, I'm coming out with all the shit now, right? That's how they did it. There was a Ukrainian gal that worked for Nancy Pelosi that did that, and then Natalia Sova was bringing over the girls. They brought in 69. Soros brought in 69 journalists. There you go, trolls. Oh, yeah, they're journalists. Look at the trolls defending them. Oh, they were journalists. The 69 they were runway models. Soros brought them into the Library of Congress, and then Chalupa was running them. Trolls are saying that they were journalists. Bullshit, trolls. They were not journalists. They were runway models. They were being brought in to compromise the people on Capitol Hill. They would go for the chief of staff, or they would go for the representative themselves, or sometimes the representative had counsel. Those are the big 3. That they would go for. And they ran a ring just like the ring up in New York. They ran it right on Capitol Hill. Right on Capitol Hill. Now, Andy, I have to be the guy. I have to be the guy who goes, hey, we got to have some sanity here. First of all, the guy's on his back, right? He's smoking pot every day, just completely out of his mind, starting the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And I used to make $1 million. I got no money now, right? I'm like, hey, snap out of it. The American people need you right now. Stop being a little Epstein. We got to go solve this shit. We're in New York. We have the inside track on this thing. We can go up to the Stone Palace. We don't have to be little Epsteins. We can go up there and start pointing the finger, but you can't be a little Epstein while we do it. You can't be a little Epstein while we do it. We have to go up there and do this because this is how they're taking control of our government. If we're not the people to lay this out, then this shit is going to keep happening again and again and again. And look at it. Did it keep happening because we were so concerned about the $300 stakes and so concerned about the Ethiopian refugees and so concerned about our little dick, right? That we couldn't stop Epstein, right? We couldn't, that whole thing, we could have outed this whole Ethiopian ring in New York in May of 2017. Instead, Andy, pixelate the BlackBerry, hide the picture of Deep BlackBerry from me, hide the continuity of government server, create all kinds of FUD about how I lied or whatever. It all turned out to be true. Bobulinski's there with the BlackBerry going boom, boom, George True. You know,
So you don't touch me, man.
oh, here we go. And this guy, I'm sorry, but you caught me on a thing where, you know, I'm just trying as hard as I can, Andy. You're trying as hard as you can. I just don't need the blowback, right? I just don't need the blowback right now. We could have sprung this thing before 2020. We were in New York in 2017. We could have blown open the Epstein thing with the Ethiopian girls. We could have done that in 2017. But he was too busy. He was too busy dating this freaking 18-year-old and spending fucking money on the 18-year-old. And I said, we have no leg to stand on. We have no leg to stand on if we're doing that shit. And that shit comes out. Now it's us. They're going to be saying we're the little Epsteins, right? You got to stop that shit. And that's why we broke up, right? I said, you stop that shit. You do not do that shit. You do not. No 18-year-old girl is going to date you, Jason, unless you're buying them something. You dumbass. So we had a chance to fucking break the Epstein ring in New York in 2017, and we blew it because of this dumb shit and his little dick, right? We had a chance to really take this shit down, right? And we could have blown Epstein. This is while he was still alive, Andy. And this is why the compromise ring was alive. This was when the State Department, he wouldn't realize that it's the State Department. It's the deep state. The deep state is running the compromise ring to take out these leaders.
It seems to be he knows too that it's like they're trying to get him as well, and he's like just falling into the trap. I told him that. I told him that. I said, don't date the 18-year-old. I told him that. I tried as hard as I could, and the little shits in the comments now saying, "Oh, the Ukrainian girls were a journalist." She was a journalist. She wasn't a journalist. She was a pretty girl who was starving to death, who weighed like 90 pounds, right? And of course, when you say, "Oh, I'm a big photographer and I'll make you famous and all that," of course, they're gonna, go out on a date with you, right? Because they don't want to starve anymore. And she had family, I believe, or she might have been an orphan now that I think about it. She had some kind of family that she wanted to bring from Ethiopia to the United States. But she's not Ethiopian. She was Somali, right? She was a war victim. She was in one of these refugee camps, right? And Epstein, I told him, I said, you don't think, if we're the only ones onto this, you don't think Epstein's smart enough to send one of them over here? Right? You don't think he's smart enough? It's a couple of blocks. You don't think he's smart enough to send one over here to take us out so that you're just as fucking bad as him? You don't think he's smart enough to bring you down to his level, you dumbass? We got to be above this thing. We can't fuck with the 18-year-olds. We got to be able to be on moral high ground and say that shit is bad, right? What you're doing, that shit is bad, right? We have to have the moral high ground. And I said to him at the time, you don't think these guys are smart enough to send over an 18-year-old so that you're just as bad as them? They're smart enough. We were hot on his ass. We were hot on Epstein's ass. We had his ass. We had the refugee camps. We had the embassy. We had all the traffic back and forth to the UN. Anyway, let's not go into it. I don't want to dwell on it. Can I play the yelling at the baby video?
Yes. Here's a guy who says he's in the chat saying these 69 Ukrainian girls were journalists. The Soros, they weren't journalists, Andy. They were runway models. That's what they were using to compromise the guys. Here we go. He calls me. He says I'm mentally. Here we are.
This video is pretty great.
Who says that I am a harasser? this person here in this video says I'm a harasser. And he also says I'm mentally ill. This person. I'll show it to you. You won't believe it.
I don't think so. I think he's an infiltrator that you need to be very careful of. So are you happy with Joe Biden? Don't touch me, man. Are you happy with Joe Biden? Hey, snowflake. Don't touch me, man. Are you happy with Joe Biden? Hi, snowflake. Hi, idiot. Hi, snowflake. So tell us, what's Joe Biden done that's any good? You're walking around with a baby starting fights. You seem pretty stupid. You're following me. I'm walking down the street. You used to call me a dick in front of your baby? Hey, baby, do you realize your father is an asshole? Don't fucking touch me. Don't touch me. You started. None of you come near me. None of you come near me. You started it, idiot. Don't. You're the antagonizer. You are the antagonizer. People saw the video. You antagonized this crowd. You deserve to be called a shithead. Where'd you come from, Afghanistan? Go home, snowflake. You got 6 people. I'm one. You're starting the fight. You're calling me a snowflake. Where'd you come from? Where's your home? Where's your home, tough guy? No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I don't know, George Webb. I think he may need to get laid. Seems he's got some pent-up aggression.
I don't care if he needs to get laid or not. I just don't want to say that's a trust relationship, and you got to put the money into the journalism. Andy, you saw that we had the journalism school. You were there late at night, midnight, printing books. You were the binding. You were shaking it, to make sure the books were going to be perfect. You were sending them out.
I have arthritis till he just days from the binder shaker.
we worked on Saturdays. We worked on Sundays. We got up early. We stayed late. It was all fun because we thought we were doing the right thing, right? And we still think we're doing the right thing. It's never time to go, oh, you know what? We just got a whole bunch of money. Ha ha. We just got a whole bunch of money. There's one steakhouse that I have. There's one Japanese steakhouse that sells a $500 Kobe steak. And that's the one I want to go to. Woohoo. I got somebody to give us a Bitcoin. It was a guy when I was over to Lou's Bar and Grill when I did the story on I went to Lou's Bar and Grill 5 days in a row where Seth Rich supposedly had his last days. How many other journalists went to Lou's Bar and Grill? I talked to the guy who owned it was Capone. His last name's Capone. Oh, no mob connections here. 5 days in a row, right? Where Seth Rich supposedly spent his last day. Okay. 5 days. Okay. They finally tried to arrest me in the last day, but they couldn't, right? But they tried to set me up with 2 security guards. I go there 5 days. I talk to Capone like this, like me and you all the time. Okay. Asking him question after question. The DNC lawyer shows up. I'm like, and he's starting to say, well, you're defaming, the Lou's Bar and Grill here and everything. I'm like, bring it on, mofo. Bring it on. Guy from the DNC, lawyer from the DNC came over. I knew it was a DNC operation, Andy. I knew Seth Rich was a DNC operation. I knew they were dangling. They're dangling oil partnerships and gas partnerships all over America. They were saying, oh, we have the inside line. Andy, we got the inside line. We got the inside line on where the Keystone Pipeline is going to be. If we had a little bit of cash, we could make that pipeline go through your farm. That's going to make you rich. That's what Butina was doing with Paul Erickson in the middle of South Dakota. They weren't just hunting, right? Everybody's telling me they're just hunting. No, you send the Rockefeller Russians with Paul Erickson, a CIA guy who's been in 3 wars by the time he's 21. You send him out to the place where they're going to put the pipeline, and you have all these hunting parties where you get all these people together and you talk about how much money you can make with oil leases. That's what Seth Rich was doing with Scott Klebe, who ran an energy company, right? And that Resources for the Future. That's what he was doing. Patrick Byrne with Butina, he was shopping Butina. look, Patrick Byrne, I love you to death. You're worth $330 million. We spent some time together. We had a few laughs, had a few yucks. But, look, I'm not stupid. All right. I know why Patrick Byrne, he kind of has the Buzz Lightyear face like I do. Not going to stop a lot of ladies. They're going to keep walking. They're going to see the Andy Dubalas. They're going to run off with the Andy Dubala. But here's the story, though. Patrick Byrne needed to introduce her and remember, 12 other Russian girls, and they were introducing her all over Washington, D.C., and he was going to all these high roller events where people were giving them money, the high rollers were giving them money, and they're saying, oh, here's Butina. Pretty nice. If you're a freaking loser, right, like little Epstein over here, here's your opportunity. Here's your Butina. Here's your Butina right here, right? Yeah. Patrick, I love you to death, brother, but I know what you were doing. Come on. I know what you're doing. You're shopping her. You were shopping her like a pony. You were shopping her like a pony at a claiming race. You were shopping her. And I got 12 more like her. And then we're going to compromise your ass. And then we're going to take your farm. We're going to take your ranch, right? We're going to take your thing that you've had in your family for 7 generations. We're going to steal it because we're going to get you doing something stupid on film. That's the operation that was being run. And Patrick, I'm sorry, brother. I love you to death, right? Much love, me to you. But I know what you were doing with Butina. She wasn't like, oh, well, there's another one, Anna Chapman. Here we go. I still haven't gotten over that one. She liked tall guys, so that may be why I had a shot. But I don't know. Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn now and then, Andy. So that's all I got to say right now.
Apparently, Aaron Adler's into redheads. Anna Chapman was a way hotter lure, he says.
True. I mean, it's just us talking, right? It's just us talking. She was hot. Yeah. And Charles Ortel told me that he went to one of the parties, one of the investment parties. Epstein was running these parties, and she greeted him in a negligee. He came to the door and opened the door. She was there in a negligee. That was for openers, and then said something like, "Would you like a drink?" I mean, that's kind of compromise anyone? Compromise any? Ding, ding, ding. Compromise. Yeah, I mean, these girls, they don't need to come across 2 oceans and live. These girls, they live 5, 6, 7 of them in one apartment. Peter Duke worked with all these John Luke and whatnot. They get this apartment. They don't pay them anything. They don't feed them. They don't want them to eat. They give them cocaine, right? They give them cocaine. Not Peter certainly wasn't a part of that, but I mean the Epstein and them. They gave him cocaine because it's like, okay, you can get high as long as you want. Just don't eat. And there's 5 or 6 of the girls, and then they give them clothes. Right, and they give them clothes, and that's all they do is they're just high all the time. They're looking at fashion magazines all day long. Andy, stacks and stacks and stacks of fashion magazines all day long, and then fashion magazine. Oh, those are nice shoes. Look at those shoes, and that's all they're doing all day long until ding, 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 7 o'clock. They get the little black dress on. They get the stilettos on. They meet the driver, and then here we go. Now Patrick Byrne. Oh, hey, I'm overstocked. $330 million. Hey, this could be you. Hey, little Epstein, this could be you.
It's a bunch of call girls, just room to kind of.
Yeah. I hate to say it, Andy, but like when these girls are really doped up, they don't know what they're doing. They're just so happy to eat. Here we go. The Aaron film. Yes, in Novi, they had a thing. They had a little gated community where they kept some of the girls, and they would run them over to the showcase. The showcase center, the trademark there. It's not Auburn Hills. It's Novi. Well, it's a little north of Novi. Anyway, it's out toward Auburn Hills.
Like where the hockey center is and all that, right?
Yeah. It wasn't far from the hockey. And I think a lot of the girls actually had hockey playing boyfriends. Remember that one goalie was killed from Romania? We went out and did a story, and then he was killed on the 4th of July. He was killed the next day. But anyway, Paul Whelan, the guy who was working for Hillary Clinton, the DNC, was bringing these girls in and into Novi. He was on the police department there, if you can believe that. And it was running the compromise operation for taking over all the automobile, the big three. They were infiltrating into and in Ann Arbor, they had all these advanced engineering like Kellogg Brown and Root, and these defense contractors who were doing uranium and doing supply chain for uranium and also the bios. They were compromising in Ann Arbor as well. Up in Michigan State, where Aaron's from, Lansing, they had a isotope laser that they were running the girls into. So this operation was probably Max Fisher started it, which Aaron knew Max Fisher. Kingsmead Arsenal was in the same building. Yes, and they were selling the guns. So at that center up there,
right there in Novi, Michigan, Kingsmead Arsenal. That's where it's registered at. Yeah,
they were running these guns over there it was an infiltration operation into the Michigan militia. And they'd get all these guys, that were, hunter, shooter kind of guys, and they would go in there and they get the picture taken with Butina and everything, and then they would do something stupid. But then that was Steve Feinberg was running this out of DynCorp. Steve Feinberg was running the operation. He bought Remington. He bought all the ammunition suppliers. He wanted to get Alex Jones has all the vitamin things. All that shit gets channeled back to NSA. All that shit gets channeled back, and you have this dossier. This guy has 2 AK-47s. He bought this many rounds of ammunition this day, this many rounds of ammunition that day. So it's an infiltration operation. So what I'm saying is Butina was used up there with the girls in Michigan as an infiltration operation where you're getting names and you're talking to people and you're recording their conversations. Her laptop had like 20 terabytes or something like that, 8 terabytes, 10 terabytes. That's a lot of terabytes. What the hell? Are those Russian recipes? Are those Rumadal, how to make stick figures? No, they're videos.
Mm-hmm.
She had 12 terabytes, Andy. And we went to her apartment right before the FBI closed. Me and Task Force went to her apartment before they closed down the apartment. Before she was ever arraigned, we went to her apartment and where she had the computers. We were ahead of so much shit, right? A lot of this stuff hasn't even ever come out. We were there before she ever got arraigned, right? And the only reason they arraigned her was so they could seize all of her shit. And it's all run by Peter Strzok. He ran Anna Chapman out of New York, and he ran Butina out of Washington, D.C. And the only reason they arrested her is so they could seize all of her shit. And they could use the force of the FBI to go out and seize all of the shit and shut the operation down. And Peter Strzok, you suck because we outed your freaking operation. We outed your operation in New York, even though little Epstein was always diverting our attention. We outed your operation in New York, and we outed your operation in D.C. Take that, mofo. And now all this information came out yesterday. Verify George Webb and all of the researchers' work. Everything we talked about with the Blackberries, the compromise, the continuity government, boom, chugga-lugga. And now Mark Schellenberger comes out yesterday. I'm breaking this new news.
He actually said it was kind of known already. He just had inside info.
Known? We did 4,000 videos. That's why they took down all my videos, Andy. They want their shill, whatever. They want their
Schellenberger.
Schellenberger. They want Schellenberger to be the hero. They want Tucker Carlson to be the hero that blew all the thing up. We're the ones that did it. We were there 7 years ago. We were there talking to the people. We produced the evidence. We produced the witnesses. They produced shit. They produced bupkis. We even have a film of Tucker finally hearing the word Kolomoisky for the first time. It's all Putin got him almost all the way there. Hey, Zelensky's father, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hint, the answer to the test. It begins with a K, ends with a Y, 8 letters, I mean, it was you know, you can see Putin was like trying to give, you know, play password, you know, always trying to get him to say Kolomoisky, right? Kolomoisky was the answer, Andy. It was the answer in 2017 all the way through to now. Tucker still hasn't said the word Kolomoisky yet. You can see it's a limited hangout. I'm not saying it's a limited hangout like he's a bad guy, but you can see that if he can't say Kolomoisky, you don't have the interest of the American people at your heart. If you say Kolomoisky, then you care about the American people. If you don't say Kolomoisky, you're not a shill, you're not a cutout, you're not a limited hangout, but you're a shadow of the people who actually do say Kolomoisky, because those are the people that are actually telling the truth about the game. Okay, those are the people that are telling the truth about the game. So here we go.
And that's why you mentioned earlier in this new Ukraine package, this $96 billion bill where they're sending all this cash money to Ukraine, that we have Trump trying to create a little special investigation on Ukraine. They try to impeach him for that. And if he stops the funding now, if he becomes president, I guess there's a little clause in the bill, according to J.D. Vance, saying they can impeach him again for trying to stop the funding to Ukraine. And it's just more.
It's a Kolomoisky writer, and
yeah.
It's a Kolomoisky writer. It's basically Adam Schiff saying, look, this is my cash cow. It's my cash cow. And I send the billions, and then about 97% of it comes back, or 5%, 3, whatever. But a big chunk of it comes back. So I wheel it out of the office. I hit it with a whole bunch of export stamps, and then I wheel the money back in the office, and I hit it with a whole bunch of import stamps. Okay, and Kolomoisky takes 10% off the top, whatever it is. But that's what Adam Schiff doesn't want to. He doesn't want this to be outed. So now we're going to put it in the bill that anytime Adam Schiff wants to wheel something out of his office and hit it with the export stamps, and then wheel it back in and hit it with the import stamps, and launder billions of dollars, it's got to be constitutionally guaranteed. That's bullshit. And again, we have to be the people that call that out. If you can't say Kolomoisky, Tucker, I love you to death. I'd crawl through glass on my elbows for you. But if you can't say Kolomoisky, you're no good to anybody. Alex Jones, you're worse, right? If you can't say Kolomoisky, you're a distraction, right? You're just, when you're selling all the vitamins and then farming all the names to the CIA and Steve Feinberg at DynCorp, you're a part of the problem. You're not a part of the solution. You got to get part of the solution, right? Kolomoisky is a part of the solution. If it's like anything else, Andy, you have to start with realization. You have to realize that if you don't say Kolomoisky, you're not an investigative journalist. You're done, right? There's journalists who say Kolomoisky, and then there's everybody else. There's just two types of people in the world: people who say Kolomoisky and people who don't. And you're not a journalist if you don't say Kolomoisky. Here we go.
And they're doing the same thing they're doing with Joe Biden and these files he had, and they're launching these inquiries into him. They're all, it's really just a story of trying to cover up their mess, trying to get them those files themselves, so they can't get into the wrong hands. They're doing the same thing to Kolomoisky right now in Ukraine. They're making a little special investigation, and they're going to go in there, take the files they need,
Look at him, Andy.
Redact the statements that they need to, and cover up all the crimes. Yeah.
Look at him. Is this the Roger Stone raid, or is this more like, would you like to buy Christmas cookies for the Girl Scouts? This is like Girl Scouts, right? Saying, would you like to buy some cookies? There's nobody beating the door through and then chaining him to the bed or the couch and putting a gun to his head and then blindfolding him, putting a pillow over his head. This is the Girl Scout cookie call. There's nothing happening here.
Those are just his buddies from the Azov battalion. It's probably a little meeting, if anything.
Yeah, these are Nabu. I mean, Azov and Nabu. All you do, Rockefellers used to do this. You used to get the worst criminals and get them out of jail. They'd put them on a train. They'd go out to a strike. They'd be strike scabs. They'd put a badge on them. They'd put a tin badge on them right before they went out and killed somebody, because then it's legal. That's the same thing that this here now, Azov criminals, murderers, mercenaries. All they do is they have this little thing called Nabu, which is the whatever crime unit the FBI set up so that we can launder all of our information out to Kolomoisky, and they give them a little tin badge. Now you can go kill anybody you want. That's what you got going on here. That's their the Cyrillic letters for their FBI which is, again, you don't see them busting in at 4 a.m. unannounced and having him on the floor, putting an AK-47 to his head, chaining him, telling all the wife and kids to, go shelter in a side room. You don't see any of that. We really need you to think about our Christmas cookie collection.
Mm-hmm. It might be Blackwater guys, and Eric Prince is like out of frame right there,
Yeah.
Setting up more mercenary schemes and money laundering schemes. But there was another story that actually came out of Ukraine that you were covering. This was the Russia Times. They actually got into one of these Ukrainian biolabs, and this reporter said there was actually, he goes through some of the documents, and I guess they state that there's some kind of questionable medical experiments that were happening in Ukraine over the past couple of years. You want me to play the video real quick?
Yes, please.
Reconstruction work is taking place across Mariupol, with many of the buildings here destroyed during the fighting. More is being discovered about what happened in the city along the way. In December 2023, construction workers at this former psychiatric hospital made a shocking discovery. In this basement, they found a trove of documents and medication, indicating that mass clinical trials had taken place on the local population for many years. Many different drugs have been tested according to the files and the documents that we found. This map indicates the scale of the operation, with experiments taking place at least 8 centres across the city. Authorities believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
We found documents that suggested thousands of people have been involved in experiments, with trials carried out for major pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Sanofi, GlaxoSmithKline, and others. Bloods and other samples were collected and then sent to labs and clinics in Europe and the United States for testing, the results of which are unknown.
Most shockingly, children and newborn babies are included among the list of those exposed to the testing, which one doctor says is not only unethical, but potentially unlawful.
First of all, the illegal participation in such research and the illegal conduct of such research violate one of the most important laws, the law on the value of human life and the value of health. In addition, any such research involves sending biological material, including that containing sensitive information, such as genetic data or certain genetic polymorphisms, to third parties who can use this information for completely different purposes.
We can't be sure what happened, how the ethics of such experiments was considered acceptable, and the clinical trials approved. We didn't see any documents and were unable to trace the patients involved, with what really happened in Mariupol shrouded in secrecy. But Ukraine has a history when it comes to children and drug trials. In 2013, scandal broke out in Ukrainian Rada when concerns were raised over orphaned children being allegedly used as human guinea pigs, tested on without consent, with the regional hospital in Poltava not having the necessary approval to carry out clinical trials.
Procedures for clinical.
Okay, George Webb, what are your more George Webb previous reporting getting confirmed that they're running, I guess, human tests in Ukraine on some of these psychiatric centers?
I hate to say this, but it goes go back to 2017, and I'm telling Jason about Dilyana, and I'm telling about all these experiments and all these biolabs being run over all the old Soviet satellites, right? And he's, again, with the little Epstein, we're on this thing. We're on G2101 was the name of the program. Okay. We're on it in 2017, Andy. This is way before anybody knew the name of Kolomoisky, all this with the testing and the biolabs and so forth, and running these clinical trials, all of it, right? We're on that in 2017. That's what disappoints me so much about this 12-part series that George is a bad guy because I picked somebody up the floor and propped up his YouTube channel, right? While I'm doing that, while I'm doing the Good Samaritan work and getting him, back up on his feet and getting him, back in the game, basically, I'm also doing this stuff, right? With Dilyana. Nobody knew who Dilyana was. Nobody knew who Robin Gritz was. We were talking about this Ukrainian biolab and sort of like the Auschwitzing of Ukraine, making it kind of like a soft Auschwitz. We were talking about that in 2017. Again, if you're always trying to undermine the person who's delivering the story, it's going to mute the story. People want clarity. They want to say, "Oh, it's a little Auschwitz. It's a little IG Farben thing. It's a soft IG Farben. Oh, okay, right. This is 2017. If a person who's working with you is not being counterproductive and is on the same channel with you, and you're pushing this information out, you change the world." Right? And that's why it took this story so long. That's why it took this story so long. It took an invasion. It took Putin. It took the whole overthrow and getting to these documents for the delivery of the story, right? But again, I hate to say this, but it could have been done 7 years ago. We said it was a soft Auschwitz 7 years ago. We covered Yanukovych, we covered the overthrow, the CIA overthrow, we covered Victoria Nuland, we covered Tony Blinken, we covered all these people, Jennifer Palmieri and Jake Sullivan and all these people. We covered it 7 years ago, right? We said this is it was a soft Auschwitz, soft Dachau, right? We covered this 7 years ago, and now here the proof is coming in. Well, okay, here it is.
And it's just more of just the Biden crime family trying to cover up what they're doing in Ukraine. We've seen the picture of Obama with the anthrax files, and I did a little research too. I found out there was the same time there's anthrax scares going on here in the United States. They were doing the same thing in Ukraine. We like to say we brought Michael Callahan, brought in the Russian scientists. He brought them into the U.S. He brought them into Ukraine. So if we have anthrax scares going on at the same time in the U.S., there's a lot of links going on. But yeah, just more George Webb reporting coming to the surface. And
the great researchers, Andy. I've always said the researchers. I just get to be the mouthpiece. All our great researchers. All you have to do is you got to stop worrying about the Kobe beef just for a little bit of time, and do a little bit of research and read what people send you, and then go out and beat the streets and burn the shoe leather and go knock on the door. You saw me go knock on the door at terrorists, suspected terrorists. Boom, boom, boom. Murder, Mahmoud, right? Murdered supposedly 7 people. Knocking on the door, Andy. Bangity, bangity, bang. Hey, how you doing today? Everybody says you're a murderer. Look at this. There's 2 guys that looks like they got strangled with their shoelaces. Do you know anything about that? That's how you do it. That's how this job is done. You got to stop worrying about the Kobe beef. You got to stop worrying about the 18-year-old Ethiopian survivors. These are survivors, Andy. A lot of their sisters, that died, okay, because of starvation. All right. So now we're gonna go. Oh, I'm a big shot because I took girl, 18-year-old. For a $300 steak. No, you got to be on the Ukraine biolabs, right? You got to be on Epstein doing the compromise with the girls. You got to be on that wavelength, right? Get on the wavelength, like Van Morrison says, wavelength. You got to be on the same wavelength with me, and we'll fucking do this thing, right? But you can't be worried about this other shit. That's why, Andy, this stuff took 7 years. If we could have been together and had a common front and we supported each other, this shit would have been done 7 years ago. So it is a little bit frustrating when I do see this stuff come out 7 years later, because I said it all could have been different if the shithead hadn't been such a shithead. But that's it. Okay, life goes on.
And yeah, just more reporting. You had Bobulinski come out today. Here's a little statement from Comer on Tony Bobulinski's appearance yesterday.
Oopsie. George is right. Oopsie. Here we go.
So Tony Bobulinski articulated under oath that Joe Biden was the brand the Biden sold to enrich the family. Joe Biden not only knew about his family's dealings with a Chinese Communist Party linked energy company, but he also enabled them and participated in them. Tony Bobulinski testified he believes Joe Biden committed wrongdoing and continues to lie to the American people about his participation in the family's influence peddling schemes. Mr. Bobulinski was unshakable in his testimony today, providing facts Democrats didn't want to hear. As such, Democrats put on a shameful display as they yelled at Mr. Bobulinski, cut him off, belittled him, and threatened him. It's behavior that I've frankly never seen before in a transcribed interview. We will soon release a transcript to provide the American people with transparency about Joe Biden's involvement in his family's shady schemes and Democrats' efforts to smear Mr. Bobulinski for blowing the whistle. And yeah, that's what they've been doing to George Webb this whole time. They've been
Andy,
Go ahead.
You remember when Aaron Adler bought the trailer sign, right? Bought the trailer sign.
Who is the big guy?
Who's the big guy? And we said right then, when Bobulinski showed the Hunter Biden BlackBerry and the James Biden BlackBerry and the Joe Biden BlackBerry at the convention, at the last debate, right? It wasn't the one in Cleveland we went to, but it was the one after that. We said they're going to use. I said this is CIA puke. They're putting forward the CIA puke now. They're making, and he's saying, "Oh, I got chain of custody. These have been in my possession. Blah blah blah, in my safe. Blah blah blah. Chain of custody." As soon as I heard him say that bullshit, I said they're going to bring this guy back to take out Biden when the time is right. Right? And they got the BlackBerry, and we said as soon as they bring the BlackBerry forward, bangity bang, there goes Biden. And who they bring in? Their CIA chosen one. The chosen one of the CIA is Hillary Clinton. Maybe not her in person, but like Kamala Harris or somebody but that takes orders from Hillary, right? And the CIA is going to put their person in. Biden is not really. That's the thing about Deep BlackBerry. I keep saying, he's saying we're not one of them. We're not total CIA. We're just on the energy side. We're doing the China energy. We're doing the Russia energy. All that turned out to be true too, didn't it? Boom, boom, boom. Everything I said with the Russia energy, China energy, the pipelines, Warren Buffett, Seth Rich, resources for the future. All that turned out to be true 7 years later. But what Deep BlackBerry is saying is this is over here, and we didn't do Libya. We didn't do Syria. We didn't do Yemen. We didn't do Sudan. Again, if you go out and get out and actually talk to people, you meet people from these countries, right? They're all Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, right? But you know, we didn't do Ukraine. Deep BlackBerry, something we didn't flip those. That's Kolomoisky. That's the House side. We're on the Senate side. He was a Senate guy. He was a Senate Sergeant of Arms for decades. That's where he knew Joe Biden. All right, Joe Biden was on the Armed Services Committee, was on the Intelligence Committee. That's where Deep BlackBerry knew him from. But on the House side, that's where they're doing all the shit. That's where they're doing the Mark Epstein and Jeff Epstein, and they're doing the Humpty Dumpty Club, and they're taking all these bets. Here we go. It's out there, Andy. Here we go. Our roving correspondent, Dave Underdown, and we've got the Mr. YouTube or Mr. Internet. What is your Navy Intel CIA guy conduit? And Hunter Biden is in the business with me, and I met with Joe Biden, and he meets with Joe Biden, this Bobulinski guy, who is a Navy nuclear guy, about a week before Mr. Biden BlackBerry meets with me, which I think is very interesting. Another reason why a BlackBerry, a Biden camp person might have been trying to say, hey, we're only in it for the energy. We're not in it for all the things that the BlackBerries were used before, which was Libya, Syria, and all the covert actions. But before we do that, that sets up our broadcast. And hello, remember, I'm going to try to be good about presenting all the members' comments first, and then we'll go to other comments. But I wanted to go to Dave because he found a news article this morning. I told you yesterday about how $15 million was given by Eric Schmidt to start neighborhood newsrooms like we have here. And now Zuckerberg's in the game. So Dave, bring us this story.
So this is a story from today in Zero Hedge, which is a financial blog, and it says that Facebook takes aim at Nextdoor with new neighborhoods feature. When your company gets big enough and an idea infringes upon your customer base, you always have the option to just rip it off and claim it as your own. After all, Microsoft started its journey to become a $1 trillion company with Windows 95 after ripping off Apple, who ripped off their operating system from Xerox.
Okay, now that's this article right here.
That's this article.
Facebook
and then it says, and that trend in technology is still apparent today with Facebook, who is now testing Nextdoor style feature called Neighborhoods that allows users to join community-based groups.
Right. So I think you are doing an interesting illusion of saying one rips off the next to rip off the next to do all the different. Oh, thank you, Eddie. Wow, look at this. See how things are dynamic here at the Neighborhood News Hour.
And there's Mark.
And there's Zuckerberg, and he's talking about neighborhood news. He's the second billionaire associated with the DNC in 2 days that have said that they've endorsed neighborhood news.
We want the whole thing, though. We want to get the whole thing in here. So we've got the G and we have the F now. So we need Apple and
Facebook, Apple.
I think it's the N is
Google is the G.
Google's the G. I look up who's the N.
Who's the N in Fang? Okay, you can't bring up any acronyms unless you know it.
I know. Yeah.
So anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So this is the article. So this is the second one in 2 days. So we must be doing something right here at the
Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, we must be doing something right here at the News Hour because we've got two of the biggest billionaires in the world. Again, we started this about a month ago, if you remember, putting the newsroom together, and now two billionaires saying that this is the idea of the future. This is how we're going to go forward in the future. Pretty amazing, actually. Eddie, I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just shows that we are doing something right here, and this community kind of news format and the process that we have here, I think it's really a crystallization of the citizen journalism movement, insofar as it's moving from the digital realm exclusively to the physical, where before we would just do these collaborations online. Now we're finally meeting up in person with these great journalists.
Yeah, so it's sort of a hybrid model, I think.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
And I think what they're saying is the same thing. Get together.
Joe Biden, I think he said it twice.
Yeah,
he said we're going to have a dark winter. We're going to have a dark winter. Operation Dark Winter, I think it was 2002, bioweapons.
To Bobulinski, here comes our phone calls. Go ahead. Right now,
if we get calling right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting the phone set up for calling, folks.
If we had done behind, pre-game formatting, I was going to say maybe 1 hour of, the George Webb daily report, and then the second hour could be questions. Kind of thing,
Well, I mean,
we got a lot to say still about Bobulinski.
Yeah.
Let's get that all out.
Yeah, sure. And I think, if you want to super chat the questions right now for everybody, they really stand out, and it really makes it great. So thank you, John, for that. And
Bobulinski, there is no Wikipedia page for this man. You think there would be, but no Wikipedia page. And that's something we've talked about recently, is the Wikipedia censorship. And speaking of that, Larry Sanger, one of the founders, retweeted me. He tweeted, actually, I think it was this morning or last night. I was showing Dave.
Larry Sanger, Wikipedia founder?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Because he tweeted something with regards to the Dark Winter, and immediately I saw that, and I put the Operation Dark Winter hyperlink, and he retweeted me. So yeah, I don't know. It's something important that stuck out to me last night. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been doing 4 years of prep for finally what happened last night. I'm not going to get a chance to say Bobulinski. Okay, come on. Well, okay. I don't want to keep turning the camera up because it gives people seasickness. So come around. Come around. Yeah. So I am getting to Bobulinski. Here comes our phone calls. Go ahead, Aaron. Sorry. You own the place.
You want to do Bobulinski, right? I mean,
no, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I want to the Navy keeps coming up. I don't want to disparage our armed forces.
All the Spanish answers.
I'll have to hire Addie as my translator.
It's a good work.
Yeah.
And then.
Okay. I'll address that, Charlie. Thank you for your call. So
that's the guy.
I don't want to disparage Jason. Jason, I always said
that's the guy who wanted to give me $5,000 a month. Guy who Charlie, they just called, and I said, no, you give me $5 a month. He wanted to give me $5,000 a month. Now, let me tell you, speaking of Jason, that wouldn't have been the answer with Jason. That wouldn't have been what he told him, and that's the difference. That's integrity versus just being just a greedy son of a bitch. I mean, that's you're not going to save the American people by being a greedy son of a bitch. You're going to save right there. What we were doing is such a beautiful microcosm. Look at that room first, by the way, with all the screens everywhere. It was information everywhere you looked, all the Ohio memorabilia, the Michigan memorabilia, the state flag. It's gorgeous. There's both state flags. You could see the juice flowing there. You could just see this thing happening, and we're making progress. It's like CNN tries to do, but everybody's got a script at CNN. And they're all Donnie O'Sullivan sycophants, and they can never say truth. And here we are, bang, 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 bang. We're going around the room, and we're just nailing shit. you know, and that's really what's so cool about this, you know. And I'm sorry that, you know, we took so many hits, you know, at the neighborhood newsroom. You know, we took so many hits, 24, 25 deplatformings.
We can never just get it up and running because it was just kind of, we needed to get a little base on YouTube going, and we could never get past like.
They were smart. They kept knocking us down.
Yeah, it was just knock us down, knock us down,
keep knocking us down. Let us stay and crawl to the top of the glass, knock them down, and then eventually they'll just stay in the bottom of the glass. That's kind of their strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we still, it was 2.5 years of really, you and Andy, you and Aaron did just a fantastic job. I was just so proud to be a part of it. Addie did a great job. Dave did a great job. We had all the, you know, you saw Deborah, Tom, everybody came there, and a whole bunch of people we can't name came there and contributed, whether it was books, ink, paper, shipping, or cups, you know, T-shirts, whiteboards, furniture. We had the furniture place next door that we went and bought the furniture. It was just everyone trying to get the news to the people of the world. It was really a total selfless act. It was great. So here we go. This is Georgia. This is Atlanta.
I showed earlier you guys were at the Capitol for January 6th, and now you're in Addie are in Georgia covering the Raffensperger report and the Georgia election steal. So you're putting boots on the ground, and you're getting to the actual sites on the scene, and you're doing actual reporting, and that's what you get with Georgia Webb. You don't get that. You don't get the Andy DeBala armchair quarterback from the CIA black site closet here in Texas. I do get out every once in a while.
You do. No, I saw your thing when you went to where they killed all the cattle with the anthrax, and then you went to the Epstein's ranch, you know, the Zorro Ranch out in New Mexico, and you know, you've done a lot of great stuff. You know, Addie gets the things. He was talking about Fannie Willis before. I mean, way before anybody even knew her name. And why? Because he was burning shoe leather inside of the rotunda, and he's talking to all the other reporters, and that's how you quickly get up to speed. You know, as you talk to 5 or 6 different people and you aggregate the story together, and you go, okay, well, where should I go next to get my new piece of this story? He was all over the Fannie Willis story. He was all over the Raffensperger story. He was talking to all the people he played golf with. He knew, you know, all girlfriends and drinking habits and all the whole thing. That's how it's done.
He probably saw Fannie Willis making out with the prosecutor in the back room.
He was saying Fannie Willis way, way before anybody even knew who she was. And you could see the DNC when they do the buildup, when they push somebody's image forward, and they make them 1,000 times more important than they should be. And that's when they're about ready to use them. That's your metadata that they're going to start using to play that card, right? Oh, this is just a little state prosecutor. Mm-hmm. We got to build her up in order for her to attack Trump, right? And you could see it. And Addie was the one who called it, not me. He gets the credit in Georgia. He was the one who called Fannie Willis being the card, being the Trump card. So
Eddie was we need to get Eddie on the show. He's
coming to Michigan.
All right, good.
He's coming. I hear he's coming to Michigan. Yeah.
I'll play a little clip. It's a little bit of the good old days. Addie's impressive when he talks. He's not a deep mumble, we'll say.
No. I mean, it's always finances. You know, it's always finances. It's always finances, and I have a lot of understanding for Addie's situation, because you know, he's had a tough home life, and you know, he had to raise himself basically, and so he, you know, his grandfather just died. He was sort of like a father to him and stuff. So you know, he's really trying.
His sister just passed away too, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's you know, it's you know, he's trying as hard as he can, and it's hard to make a living doing this. I brought $750,000 to the party. Right? Everybody wants to be your friend when you bring $750,000 to the party, and then I spent it all on the party. Right? When you don't have any money, then all of a sudden, you know, people say, "Well, why are you here?" And that's, you know, but he did great stuff. He did great stuff, and he still has about 1 million stories ahead of him. So.
Yeah, this is why they try to knock you down cut you down at the knees when we were trying to get started. They were doing it to Addie before, and yourself, even before you guys came to Neighborhood News. We tried to get it started at Neighborhood News. They kept cutting us down. We tried to create like our own grassroots news network, Neighborhood News Network here, so we all could survive and we all could eat and have a little shelter. And it's just it's very hard to do to break into the business.
And he's been frustrated a few times, and that's what I say: get away from the keyboard, get away from your phone. When you're frustrated, and then the frustration will come out sometimes in an angry tweet or whatever, and then unfortunately you can't take those back. But everybody has to understand that a young person going through all this, trying to figure out how to make a living, is going to be frustrated. Right? I understand how he feels about Whitney Webb, and the chosen ones like Steve. What's the kid with the knit hat?
Tim Pool.
Yeah. I understand. I get it. Addie's stuff's better. He's going out. He's burning the shoe leather. Tim Pool's sitting behind a thing and going, so I get that, but my advice to him, and I'm so sorry about his sister, my advice to him is just stay the course, just hang in there. I've been knocked down so many times, and you just, they're not, the old pro football thing. They're going to let the guy come through the first time and knock you down, Andy. They're not waiting to see if you get knocked down. They're waiting to see how fast you get up. Right. And then they know if you get up fast that you're going to be, you're a Mahomes or you're a Dybala. Right. Right. If you're not going to get up quick, you're not a Mahomes, you're not a Dybala. I still think you have a better arm. He scrambles better than you, but your arm.
You've never seen me scramble, George Webb.
I don't know if you scramble that well. Mahomes is pretty good, but anyway,
I'm like Big Ben in the pocket. People bounce off.
You're a Big Ben, drop in the deep pocket and throw. Yeah. You're a Big Ben.
I'm not running away from old Big Ben.
But your arm, though, I still think is a little bit better than Mahomes. He impressed me though on that one at the end of the. I said, "Ooh, that's a little Dybala you got going on that gun," But there you go. I got to get out of the room, Andy. They're going to throw me out here. They're
all right, George. we don't want you to get the cops called on you for staying in the hotel. If you might be able to get like what do they call that when you stay in
late checkout?
Yes.
No, they want me out of here. I've been making too much noise. They want me out of here. So.
All right, Adam Schiff knocking on the door, telling you to get the hell out. No more.
And these other people are making this kind of noise at 2 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed at 8 o'clock. They're making this kind of noise at 2 o'clock. But who do they come in with the Gestapo, right? With the Roger Stone raid? Me. At 10:30 when I'm trying to do truth, right? With Andy Dybala. And, I just think that's a double standard. Anyway, never mind.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can support George Webb. Go to his Twitter page at RealGeorgeWebb1 and hit those donation links. You can buy him a coffee. You can hit that PayPal link. You can donate via Venmo. Or
There's no nation like a donation. I learned that from a guy named Donation in Chicago with Task Force. Just saying.
There's no nation like a donation. You should put that in your little bar right there. I like that. There's no nation like a donation. Go to George Webb's Twitter page and hit one of them links and subscribe to his Substack, not Michael Schillenberger. George Webb is reporting on these Five Eyes CIA connection years and years ago, and he's not acting like it's breaking news going on right now. And that's why we had to give you guys a little update on what we've reported on in the past to show you that Neighborhood News Network is the place to go for your up-to-date news information. George Webb, get out of Vegas, get out of that hotel room, have a safe trip and a wonderful day. You got the day off tomorrow, but we will be back at 12 o'clock noon Eastern, sharp. I promise, sharp.
I got Dave Underdown tomorrow with John O'Loughlin at 11 o'clock Eastern.
McDuff lives. McDuff lives. George Webb, Dave Underdown, and John O'Loughlin.
You think I still don't have some games? You don't think I still got something going on? I'm with Underdown and O'Loughlin tomorrow. Just saying, 11 o'clock. Bang. The ones. Dial it in. The 2 hockey sticks. Dial it in on the ones tomorrow.
Dial it in. McDuff lives at 1 o'clock with John O'Loughlin and Dave Underdown. Then we will be back at noon, 12 o'clock noon Eastern sharp. We will not be late. Or at least that's what I say now, but we'll see then. All right, George Webb, get out of that hotel room and have some safe travels.
Thank you, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, what do we always say? Blackberries matter. It would help if I hit the correct button. Blackberries matter.
Started seeing like blackberries, government issued blackberries, government issued blackberries, government issued blackberries. They were blackberries. They were blackberries. They were blackberries. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment. Man, this looks like government issued equipment.